My first encounters with drugs and alcohol was my father and my mom. She used pills, and I'd come home and I'd see them all over the place. My dad would have liquor bottles all over the place. I remember my mom giving me Benadryl and stuff to knock me out all the time. Because every time that I would be acting up, she would just give me something, make me go to sleep.
When I was like 12, my mom overdosed on heroin for the first time. I'd always known that she was a drug addict, and my dad was a raging alcoholic, so it was never hidden from me.
As I got older, started hanging out with friends, I knew what drugs and stuff was, so I generally was attached to kids that did those things. My dad, he left, and my mom, she was with multiple men all the time, and how else was I supposed to deal with that besides doing what all my friends were doing?
I had this false impression in my head that, all these things were okay to do. Well, I could use drugs and alcohol, and I didn't get in trouble for it.
When I went home, it was just tragedy. All the time there was always drama or something. There was nights where I didn't just cry myself to sleep, I sobbed myself to sleep. There were nights that I really wanted to die. I didn't understand why I was given this life. I would go to sleep and wanted to wake up in someone else's family, someone else's life. I wanted it to be a bad dream.
When people come to us, they come to us desperate and alone. And so we become the family of last resort, but they find a brotherhood and a companionship.
I had some friends that lived up the street that had older brothers, and they drank, and they would just go in there and they would steal their liquor, and they would share it. And then it progressed to my friends using prescription drugs. Then I was introduced to cocaine. That was something that I said I would never do because that's what my mom does. I would just stick to smoking weed and drinking alcohol, and I accepted it. I did it, and then from that day forward, I didn't care about anything else.
18 years old, the first time I started doing synthetic heroin, prescription pain pills, and doing cocaine. And in the beginning, it's fun, man. It's fun to do. But after a while, after you've realized that you've been up for days, and you don't have anybody else around you, and you're by yourself, you're like, this is a problem. It was just it made everything numb for me, but I didn't want to do it. That's not the life I wanted to live. I wanted to have a good life, but I just didn't have, unfortunately, I didn't have an opportunity and a way out.
They came to us separately, one from Bonita Springs, one from here in Naples, but they held in common the fear, the anxiety, the hopelessness of being on the streets.
I was sleeping behind a dumpster at 7-Eleven on Bonita Beach Road and Tamiami Trail, and I was laying with this little, it was a tiny little blanket, man. It couldn't have been more than 3 foot by 4 foot, and a tiny little pillow, and freezing to death. It was winter time out, and I was just like, this is nonsense. I shouldn't be living like this.
I slept outside of a McDonald's, one right down there on Bayshore. I didn't know what to do. I was hungry. I was dirty. Because at that point it was 2 days and I hadn't even had a shower. And it wasn't a dirty just on the outside. I felt dirty on the inside, worthless. Alone.
I was all scraggly and nasty looking, and having somebody that young approach you hey, can I please have, I can only imagine what they thought. I was embarrassed. I didn't want people to see me like that. I get enough money to get high, or whatever I had to do, I'd go get high, and then it didn't matter how people looked at me.
I was just completely fed up with the fact that my life was the way that it was, and I would do anything at this point to make myself feel not like me.
I didn't want to get high for the longest time, but I did because it helped me deal with myself and the pain that I was going through.
What the guys really found here was not a homeless shelter or drug rehab. They found a family. Just because they had no hope for their next meal at one point didn't mean they didn't want to have a future.
I was the complete opposite of what a Christian is. And these guys would always come in and they'd be praying together, and they'd be me on, and I thought, my first thought to myself was, they're out of their mind. Then they started asking to pray for me. And, you know, I let them, and my first thought went through my head was like, oh yeah, if there's a God, then why can't he give me a better life? I wanted what these guys had. I wanted that happiness.
When you get to a place where you don't have anything, you don't have anybody helping you out, this is like this is it. Like, your program is your last shot. Like, it's either death or change your life. Then you realize, like, all right, you know, something needs to be done.
I was laying there my first night, and I was laying there looking at the ceiling, and I was like, this is it. This is what my life stacked up to be. I was laying on this floor where I don't know a single person around me. And to be honest with you, I just didn't even care anymore.
All of us look to connect and look to make a difference. I feel like I had a burden on my heart for Lance, in particular because he had come through twice before and had struggled and didn't want to abide by the rules. And since we have a strict program, he was asked to leave. So when I tried to say words of encouragement and try to give him hope, it was out of that desire and out of those prayers that have been given up for him that he would have a chance at making it.
I remember him pulling me to the side the very first time in the program, and he was like, you know, God laid it on my heart, there's something special for you. You know, I've been praying for you. And that stuck with me. I could be like, you know, in the worst spot and just bam would pop up into my head, you know, God's got something good for you. But, you know, it stuck with me. And I had this idea, you know, I'm like, you know, maybe God does have something good for me.
As I started connecting with Lance, Aaron, who had become his friend in the program, then started hanging around, and before long, we were developing a relationship where I was becoming a mentor to them.
We just clicked, I mean, instantly, you know, and whenever one of us was feeling down, you know, we made it known to each other that you can come to me with whatever.
I've got all around the greatest family I could ever ask for. Because I have people that genuinely care about me, that has taken me from this lost person that I was and have made me brand new.
And so they've become a team, they've become a family, they've become best friends, and so they're better and stronger together than they would be separately.
I don't call it St. Matthew's house, I call it my family. And this family is the only reason why I'm not that person anymore.
I don't think any drug addict, like, you know, their main goal is like they want to just get high for the rest of their lives and not be anything. Like, and time flew by fast, man. I mean, it feels like last week I was sitting down at, you know, St. Matthew's house on the one night, you know, sweating, just, you know, hating my life. You know, and now it's like endless opportunities, and, you know, people care, and, you know, little bit of family reaches back out to me. And
so to be able to share those joys and the sorrows and disappointments with them, help them walk through life, that's what families do.
You know, Van has been like that father figure towards to me. Van, Aaron, you know, the people that went through the program with me, my small group, you know, they all care, like, genuinely. And I've never experienced anything like that in my life, ever.
To be honest with you, without St. Matthew's house or Justin's place, I'd probably be dead right now. I'd have probably either taken my own life or died of an overdose. Because I just don't see how I could have made it much longer.
Both of them are excited about what happened here at St. Matthew's house. And faith is part of that. For each of them, that faith is celebrated through their education, through their lives. And so we're helping them find the right school, the right program that will support them, the right campus atmosphere where they can be nourished and can grow and become the men that they're called to be.
I want to help change one person's life to where the way that mine has. I want someone to see that through a relationship with God, that you no longer have to be what you were.
They're beginning to realize that they really can fulfill those dreams, that their dreams are not their next high or their next plate of food, but having a life of significance. And I think so many people in our community relate to that.
Justin's place is a place where we can change. Justin's place is a place where It's kind of like your big brother, you know? It's a place where a good person can come alongside you, lift you up, and help you walk a different way.